Hi, my name is Jen Pasha. I'm a survivor of stage 4 oral cancer. I'm a survivor of addiction, and I'm 6 years in recovery. I've also lost over 500 pounds since losing my son to cancer. I had a normal childhood. I grew up in Montauk, Long Island. I was adopted as a baby at 2 weeks old. I didn't know about my adoption until I was 14. I had a few troubles in my middle school years, and I, ran away from home, stupid stuff. And it was after I ran away that I came back. My mom told me, "Hey, listen, you're adopted," and so that was the first big thing I think in my life that kind of changed me emotionally, made me feel really confused at first. I tried to find my biological family for many years, and it wasn't until later in life that I found them. When I was 14, my mom and dad had separated shortly before that, and I was living with my mother, and she had sole custody, and at the time she thought that I needed some help. I guess I was going through some trouble in school, nothing major, but I guess to my mom, she just wanted me to stay on the good path, and at the time she did what she thought was the best decision, and she sent me away to a program in California called Julian Youth Academy. I spent a year there. I had no contact with my dad, my grandparents. The only person I could talk to was my mother once a week, and I would say that was the start of my mental health issues, my depression. That was the first time I attempted to cut myself, was at that place. I was, getting pretty desperate to go home, and I ran away from that place. And after my runaway, my mom ended up coming and getting me, and I went back home. Even though I was happy to be home, it definitely changed me. This the first year of high school. I had lost contact with all my friends. I was very confused about my identity and who I was. I just fast forward to when I was 19, December 17th, 2003. I was driving into Queens to pick up my dad's girlfriend from work, and I saw a disabled motorist stopped in the middle of the highway, and at first I felt that I needed to stop and help them because they were by themselves. So I stopped my car and parked in front of him. I got out of the car, and as I was waiting by his window, cars started coming by, and I remember that I decided to wait in front of his car so that I didn't get sideswiped. And that was probably the bad decision because about a minute after that, a car hit him full speed and then hit into me and then hit my car and pushed it out of the way. By the grace of God, I was not pinned between the cars, but I did damage my leg pretty severely and was unable to walk for about a year. In that year, I sank into a deep depression. I turned to food, to comfort. I ate, sat in bed, ate, watched TV, just did the same thing every day. Over the next couple of years, I gained several hundred pounds. Pretty much lived inside my room, in my bed, and I needed help showering, getting dressed. I didn't know why I had been put through so much. I thought maybe they were right and I was just not supposed to be this person. I was angry. I didn't care about anything. I ended up turning to drugs to self-medicate and numb the pain that I was in emotionally. After using over a year, I ended up getting a sore on my tongue. I wasn't sure what it was. I went to my primary care doctor. She didn't know what it was, sent me to the dentist. The dentist didn't know what it was, sent me to an oral surgeon. The oral surgeon told me that's not his specialty and that I have to see an ENT. The ENT said it's probably an infection. Gave me medicine, didn't work. The pain was getting bad. It was aching the whole side of my mouth. I had an extreme pain in my ear on the same side. They did a breast biopsy, and I remember asking the doctor at that point, "Could this be cancer?" And he said confidently, "You're too young for cancer." Not cancer. But it was still here, and something wasn't sitting right with me, so I found another doctor. As soon as I got to that doctor, doctor number 6, as soon as he looked in my mouth, he said, "That's cancer." I just remember, I wasn't expecting that, I guess. They said it had spread, and unfortunately, I was misdiagnosed. At first, he was willing to do surgery. And then about a week later, he called me and said that he didn't think that I was going to survive. So he didn't feel comfortable putting me through that kind of surgery if he didn't think that it was going to benefit me. And he didn't think that I would be able to get the radiation needed to save my life because I was so heavy. And he was afraid it wouldn't get through my neck. He had told me to seek palliative care and to get my affairs in order. And, that was a really tough moment. It's really hard to explain. So I ended up finding the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in Manhattan. They were a little bit more optimistic, and they said that they would go ahead and try the surgery. It was a 19-hour operation. I would have had to have my entire tongue removed. They told me they would have to saw my jaw in half with a saw to open it to access my mouth. I would have to get a straight tube put in my neck. I would have to get a neck dissection to remove the cancer in my neck. I would have to get a feeding tube put in, and I would have to get a skin graft on my arm to put in my mouth to take up the empty space. It was terrifying. I went ahead with it. It was rough after that. It was very painful. I couldn't speak. It was hard to breathe. I had a tube in my neck. About 2 weeks after my surgery, my trach tube got plugged up with tissue, and I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't speak to tell anybody that I was in trouble. I basically stopped breathing, and my heart stopped, and they had to do CPR. The CPR broke my ribs, punctured my lung. They had to put a chest tube in at bedside, and my heart had to be restarted 3 times before it stabilized. And after that, I was in a coma for 3 days. And when I woke up, I honestly I didn't even know what happened. No memory. I had pain in my ribs, and I was asking about it. And they told me that my heart stopped, and I thought they were joking. I thought they were joking with me. I might stop playing, because I know your heart stops, you understand. And, that was, I guess, a changing, a turning point for me. It's almost like I remember being in a dream. It felt like maybe I had fallen asleep, but it wasn't. After that, the main storm heart was born. And a few months after that, I finally got out of the hospital. It took me a while to get discharged because when my heart stopped, I had a lot of weakness in my body. I had trouble sitting up, like I couldn't even stand up. Sometimes it took like a team of like 8 nurses just to help me sit up in bed. I was 650 pounds at the time, so that made things a lot harder to recover. I was 32 at the time. One thing I remember is that after surgery, I wasn't in pain as much as I was before. Like, the tumor was extremely painful, excruciating. Like, in my ear, I thought my ear was full of acid. So, like, when my tongue was removed, it was almost like a relief. But the hardest part to me was the trach tube. It was really hard to breathe through a tube at 600 plus pounds. Especially when they wanted me to go up and do physical therapy. I mean, I felt like I was breathing through. That was the hardest part for me. As time went on, I started feeding the odds, the feeding tube that they had said would be in there forever. I took it out myself. One day when I was driving, I just started breathing on my own. The trach tube that they said would be there for life, I took it out myself. They also had told me that I would never speak, I would never eat again. Not only had I lost over 500 pounds since, but after 6 years of not eating, I just began to eat again a few months ago. So now I'm eating food again. Today I'm eating like donut sandwich, fruit. It's almost like a dream again. I'm 7 years. I'll be 7 years cancer-free this July 2023. So I was given less than 30% chance to survive 5 years following my surgery, and it's almost 7 now. And I've been clean and in recovery for over 6 years. I've been sharing my story online, helping inspire others, doing what I can to help others, just be a friend to them, be there for them. I started an online community. I called it Storm Heart Nation, and the purpose behind that is just to help unite people and to remind them that they're so much stronger than they think they are. Honestly, I'm homeless right now. I'm blessed, I have my dogs, I have my car, I'm on exercise, so I do get some money. I'm definitely in a better place than I was. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm thankful for where I am and what I do have, and I'm just taking everything one day at a time and just praying that with my story I can continue sharing and inspiring others, and maybe a door will open where I can do this full time. And yeah, I was still living with my family. I was living with my dad at the time and his girlfriend. And when it happened, I actually pulled my mom from the hood of the car, and they came to the hospital. But I've always been close to my family, but they live different places now. My mom lives in California. My family moved to Florida. My grandfather had passed away from COVID on April 30th, 2020. And then my father died 2 days later of a heart attack on May 2nd, 2020. Now, I would say in the beginning, I wasn't this positive. I was more like, I don't care. I was depressed. If I'm being honest, even though caused my cancer, after my cancer, I actually used it again because I was so depressed. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't even talk. I had a trach tube in, and if I'm being honest, I didn't want to be here anymore at that time. And I used right in my trach tube. That's how low I was. And you would think that the fact that it gave me cancer would make me not want to touch it, but I didn't care at the time. It wasn't until after a few months after I came home that I finally started to realize my second chance was a blessing. And I decided that I wasn't going to take it for granted anymore, and I stopped using it, and I haven't touched it again in over 6 years. First one I had was my stomach. And I had a lot of extra skin hanging, like pulling down. They did surgery that was from hip to hip, all the way side to side, and then from my belly button all the way up to right under my chest. So it was like a T, like a big T. It was a pretty rough operation. I had a lot of complications with the incision opening. Very happy with the results. My second surgery was my arms. That one was pretty rough too. I had a lot of bleeding in one arm, a lot of complications again. And then the third surgery I had was my legs. And that's where they removed so much skin because rewind back to when I was hit by the car. That accident actually caused me to have lymphedema for all these years. After my weight loss, my lymphedema sort of like shrank, and I asked them if they would be able to remove it. However, after they removed my excess skin and the mass, the lymphedema was gone, never came back. I went to the doctor and they rechecked me and said I had no sign of lymphedema, and I might be the first person that would be cured from it, which is pretty wild. But with my depression, now I have been in therapy since November 2021. That's something that's new to me. Not new for the fact that I haven't been in therapy, but I've never actually stuck with it, talked about anything. So this is the first time I've actually been trying to actually get help and open up and talk about how I really feel. I have that as one of my coping mechanisms. I rely on that conversation every week with my therapist to unload some of the stuff I've been dealing with. I always listen to music. That's a big one for me, music therapy. I put the music on and I just think about things and, maybe meditate. I actually do have a cool story that can go with that. Before I had these dogs, I had a dog named Bruno. I was about to make it to my 5-year cancer-free mark, which is 2 years ago, 2021. So I made it to my cancer-free 5-year mark July 31st, 2021. 2 weeks later, my 14-year-old dog, Bruno, passed away from cancer. I believe that he took it back. He took it for me. And I mean, that might sound funny to some people, but I believe it. Right after I got home from my cancer surgery, I had 2 dogs, Bruno and Azura. Azura ran away in 2017. In 2022, January 2022, which is just a few months after Bruno passed away, I got an email saying that my dog Azura was found after 5 years. And when that's even weirder, she was 16 hours away in Henderson, Tennessee, and the shelter that had her sent me a video of Azura in the shelter The video was taken before they even knew who I was. When they got to the dog that was in the pen next to her, they told him Bruno. And when I asked them about that, they said that the dog didn't have a name, and that was the first name that came to their mind. Crazy. That actually made the news last year. I guess I just wanted to give people hope. I mean, I remember when I first started sharing it, I didn't think that it was gonna get anywhere. I mean, I really didn't have that many people on Facebook, and if I did, I got like one like on a post, but it wasn't even like I had a very social media. But I just kept sharing it, and more and more people were like just blown away by it, and that just motivated me to keep doing it. And I mean, I didn't have any expectations at the time, but it sort of turned into my purpose. I feel like maybe that's why I got a second chance at life. Maybe, when my heart stopped, maybe God sent me back because I had a message to share. I needed to help inspire others. Like there's other people that feel broken like I have, or in the dark, or hopeless, they feel like there's no purpose in life. And, like I say now that my thing that I say now is we must remember that life is a blessing, and all the struggles we face, they're only just lessons. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is that people didn't run and lonely until I lost weight. That's just, it's a sad truth. It is what it is. I'm not saying that everybody would have been like that, but the majority of the people I met on my life journey before the cancer, that's how it was. The things that I had been saying, I've been saying all along, but nobody listened back then. I was looked at, pointed at, laughed at, made fun of, not taken seriously, so, it makes you think, but I'm so thankful that now I'm able to, let me put this way, it's funny that when I had a tongue and I could talk clearly, nobody wanted to listen to me, have anything to do with me, but now that I have no tongue, it's like, I'm heard more, and that's where I got the name Silent Speech, because I feel like there's more said than there's nothing said. It's definitely different. In the beginning, I remember being like, wow, I can see my feet now. Like little stupid stuff, like, like stupid things that I was never thin as an adult until after cancer. So, being hit by the car at 19, I spent most of my 20s basically did them. So I enjoy looking around now. I can take my dogs out. I can look at the beach with them. I can sit outside and go to swings. And there was even a time where I didn't fit in the car. I mean, I was too big to fit behind the wheel. And, little things that you take for granted. And just thankful that, in a weird way, I'm thankful that I got cancer. I remember a few days after surgery, I was so thirsty. Like, I just wanted like a glass of water. Like, I couldn't even have water. I couldn't have anything in my mouth. Like, nothing. And I mean, people don't realize it's hard when you have a food addiction, because you see it on TV, on billboards, on signs, posters, like everybody knows. In the TV commercials, they put post-ups on the food. And, laying in the hospital bed, those commercials came on, I was like, oh my god, I can't even watch this. Like, I had to set it up. It was definitely difficult. In the beginning, I would try to get food, and there's no way I could eat it. I would just look at it and think that I would try, but it was just, I'm surprised that I was able to eat after 6 years. But I'm thankful. Yeah. It's funny. I thought that I would be like learning more things that I used to have, like pizza, New York pizza. That was like one of the first things I couldn't wait to have. And yeah, I can eat it. It might take me a little bit. The cheese is kind of chewy. I can still eat it, but I don't find myself wanting it like I used to. It's weird. It's like, I don't know if it's just because I went so long without it that the desire for it isn't as intense. I eat like bananas, egg sandwiches, I still eat steaks. Have a donut here and there. I'm sure there's other things I could eat, but I just stick to that. I don't really eat more than once a day. I don't want to gain too much weight. a bit back in the bad habit. Yeah, it's interesting that I get to try different things now. Everything happens for a reason. There's always a greater purpose for our pain. And like I said before, you must remember that life is a blessing, and all the struggles you face are only just lessons. I was gonna say, I will add this, that we have to go through hard times to make us stronger and wiser. And that's just part of life. When something hurts, after it heals, you're now stronger. And that's just how you have to think about it.